Welcome back everybody to another fun pack and point video. And in today's episode, sorry, I got the cat on my lap here. So in today's episode, what I want to go over is Bitcoin. Actually, I've got 5 reasons for you guys why I think it's probably not a good long-term investment. And this is why I'm personally out of it. And before I get into the details of it, you need to know that, I'm not a financial advisor. I am an engineer. I did mine Bitcoin. I am like the kind of like magic nerd that does this kind of stuff. I am familiar with like how it works and what it is, and I've been doing this for a while. And I'm actually pretty bearish on Bitcoin long term, and that's kind of what I want to go over right now with you guys. Why I personally am not going to hold it long term. But before I give you these 5 good solid facts, I do think it's important that you know that nobody knows where it's going to go like in the short term. I mean, wherever it's at right now, which has been bouncing around like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000, something like that, it could go much higher, but I think eventually it's going to come down. And those moves, they don't seem to be predictable by anything that I can find. They just kind of happen. So let's get into the 5 things that I think are reasons why it's not a good idea to actually buy Bitcoin. So let's start on number 5, the power that's used to like mine and run the network. Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency that requires a lot of computers to do a lot of math for the purpose of finding the new coins, but also just to process the transactions on the Bitcoin network. So I think as of like September of this year, the Bitcoin network runs at 342,934,450 watts. Well, that's about 343 megawatts. That's a lot of power, right? I mean, if you were going to convert that to the amount of power it takes to run an average home, that's like 285,000 homes. If you figure like 4 people per home, that's like 1 million people that it requires to like power just to like run the currency, right? And that's crazy when you think about it, because you really got to put that in perspective. There's almost nobody that's actually transacting actual Bitcoins right now. Most people that are hugely into Bitcoin and they love it and they talk about it, they buy them and they hold them. They don't run around spending them every day. And so a large part of that Bitcoin network, like that, for the power that's put into it, is just still trying to mine new Bitcoins, or it's actually just processing the current ones. But there's like less than 5% of Americans actually even own any Bitcoin. And of the ones that do, almost nobody's spending it. So you got a network that almost nobody is actively using right now. They own them, but they're not really using them. And it's using so much power that it could run like 250,000 homes to actually run them. I mean, and that's just increasing, right? Gosh, imagine if like 10% of the American population started actually using Bitcoin. I mean, there's projections that aren't too far out that in order to just keep the network like running, you'd have to use like all the power in the world to just run the Bitcoin network. It's a problem that they've got to solve. I don't know how they're going to solve it, because they've got a community of people and they try to get a community to vote on like anything and make it actually work. It can be crazy, right? The point is, it has a power problem, right? Absolutely. So a second reason, so reason number 4, I should say, and actually before I even mention that, I should say that every single one of these issues is a potential reason that maybe Bitcoin might just get blown out entirely. Like it's not going to work long term. But anyways, reason number 4 is that currency has to have stable value. And there's no getting around that, right? It doesn't matter what you're using as currency. You could be using paper dollars, you could be using Bitcoin, you could be using precious metals, you could be using tally sticks. Doesn't matter. Currency has to have stable value. The reason why that's so important, imagine you're a store owner and you have a lot of goods in your store and you sell those goods and people pay you in all this Bitcoin, and the next day the value just tanks, right? Well, you just took a huge loss because you sold all of your stuff at market value And your stuff probably wasn't going to change very much from one day to the next. But then the next day, the Bitcoin value dropped like 40%. And that was like your entire profit margin. So just because of the inconsistency of the network, now you've lost all your profit. Or maybe, the next day it goes up 40%, right? But then consider that one a little bit more. If you think Bitcoin is going to go up 40%, are you going to spend it? Well, no. You're going to hold it. So the very fact that a currency is going massively up and massively down in value is causing people not to want to spend it, which means it's not a currency. It's like buying a hammer that can't hammer a nail. It's an ineffective tool, right? It was designed to be a tool, and it's not used as that tool for exchanging value with other people because the value changes, right? And be honest, right? Most everyone that has a Bitcoin and loves Bitcoin and talks about Bitcoin, they do not do that for the most part. And by the most part, I mean like 99%, because they believe in it being a future world money and stuff. They buy it to gain value, and they're sitting on it and not spending it, right? They're basically hoping for a deflationary environment where every single coin is going to go up in actual purchasing power, right? Which has actually happened in the last few years and could keep happening, but nobody really knows for sure. Anyways, that's number 4. So number 3, Bitcoin was marketed for the longest time is free to transact, right? It's not free to transact. In fact, it takes actual effort and energy to move a Bitcoin from one spot to another, because all these computers throughout the world have to all agree that that transaction actually happened. So that's not going to get done for free, right? People aren't going to give up their CPU cycles for free. So it actually ends up having a cost to it. And that cost goes up and down. And there was a point, I think it was like last December of last year, where it cost up to $34 per coin to actually transact an actual Bitcoin, right? And that's far from free. That's a decent amount of money just to send it. And again, that can go up and down, right? I think currently it's pretty low at the moment. But the point is, it's not free. So anyone that told you it's this free internet currency, free to transact and stuff like that, it's not true, right? It entirely depends on the number of computers that are on the network processing the transactions, right? And especially that's its own problem, because if mining goes down, then less computers are doing it. So why sit your computer on the internet and give away free CPU cycles when you're paying the power bill just so you can process everyone else's transactions? So it has a problem, right? It's not free to transact. That's number 3. So number 2, this is a huge issue. So the blockchain size is a huge problem. And this one, I can't just quickly state it. You're going to have a little bit more background on what the blockchain size basically is. So let me first give you an image here to look at. Now, the blockchain size you're looking at on this graph, this is starting, let's see, do we have the lower part? No, let me get the X scale. Okay. So 16th of October, right, of 2017, and the blockchain was sitting around 135 gigabytes. And you can see how the blockchain size is increasing, and as of right now, it's about 185,000 gigabytes, right, in October of 2018. So why is that a big deal? So the reason why it's a big deal is because you got to go back to one of the original purposes of cryptocurrency. People talk about it actually being something that's really secure. It's uncrackable. They're not going to hack into Bitcoins. They're safe, right? Well, that's only when you have a copy of the blockchain. You have to have that 185 gig archive has got to be in whatever device you're using to send Bitcoin. So you take out your phone, and your phone's only got I don't know, most people's phones these days is 64 gigs to 200 gigs, something like that. That's all the memory that their phone has, right? Well, 185 gig just to have the blockchain archive on your phone, if you were to put it on there, you don't have any room for anything else, right? It's a huge amount of space. And I just showed you the chart. It's growing like crazy. And by the way, that's with nearly nobody using it, right? People are sitting on them. They're not transacting them. It's like less than 1% of the world is actually like actively using Bitcoin for their daily transactions. And yet it's 185 gigs already, right? So let me get back to the point of why that's important. If you don't have the blockchain on the device that you're using, you don't have that special security that everybody talks about. So what do people do instead? They take their Bitcoin and they give it to someone else. And like that's like, they give it to Coinbase, or they gave it to Mt. Gox, or they gave it to some currency exchange, right? And then now when you don't have your coin anymore, so it's not secure, it's not in your hands, right? You've given it to someone else. Well, now what's basically happening is you're connecting to your, like, say, Coinbase account, and you're saying, please, Coinbase, please send my Bitcoin over here for me. You don't have it anymore. They have it, right? So the security of Bitcoin is no longer based on this amazing blockchain technology. It's based on your trust level between you and like Coinbase or whoever your exchange was, right? If somebody else can sit at my computer, log into Coinbase and be like, I'm Edwin, and they can tell Coinbase to send my coins somewhere else, they'll do it, right? So you didn't have to crack Bitcoin. You just had to like pretend to be Edwin when you called into like, whoever was holding the coins, right? But that's why that relates back to the 185 gig archive, right? If the archive itself is so big that you don't put it on your phone, that means you either leave it on your computer at home or you give it your coin to an exchange or something, and now that security thing is just gone. It's no longer massively secure. It's only as secure as the security level between you and the person who's holding your coin for you, right? If that actually makes sense. So now, let me go to what I consider my number one reason why I think Bitcoin and just all cryptos have a problem. Pretty recently, actually I should have looked up the date right before I made this video. The IRS changed their laws on how they actually deal with cryptocurrency. For a long time, everyone was looking at cryptocurrency like a government independent free market form of money was the point of why they liked it. Well, recently the IRS, they changed their laws, and so anytime that you sell a Bitcoin and you have profits that you've gained, you owe taxes on those profits. Now that sounds really simple at first, but you got to pay attention, right? You got to pay attention. What does that mean? Let's say you bought 5 cents worth of Bitcoin like 3 years ago, right? And that 5 cents worth of Bitcoin is now $10. Hey, that's great. You're happy, right? You made all this money. So you go to the store or you go out to lunch and you buy a nice lunch for yourself for $10. Well, guess what? That was 5 cents you bought it for. It's $10 now. Well, that's basically $9.95 of profit. That means you owe taxes on $9.95 for that transaction. Every actual transaction where you're actually buying something with Bitcoin, you need to know your cost basis, what you got the Bitcoin for. You need to know what you bought that thing for. You need to calculate the profit and file your taxes on it. Can you believe filing your taxes for like every single thing you do? Like you go to the gas station and buy gas, file taxes. You go to, and this is like income taxes effectively, right? You have to have a form for income taxes. It's crazy. So the IRS knew that people weren't going to do that because they knew it was black market, and Bitcoin isn't impossible to trace, but it's harder to trace. So what did they do? Well, they leaned on the actual currency exchanges. They went to like Coinbase and all these others, and they knocked on the door and said, hey, anyone that's got, Bitcoin transactions over some amount, like $2,000 or something, we want your records. And so, Coinbase is either going to have the IRS on their back or they're going to turn over the records. So they did, right? And now suddenly it is no longer a government independent currency. It now actually has taxes owed on it. And if you just look at it and say, well, screw you, IRS, I'm not going to pay taxes. Guess what? Now you're a tax evader, right? You're going to go rot in a jail for that one. So it's a big problem, right? And so you go down that list and you think about the fundamentals, right? It's not a form of money because it's not a currency because the value changes too much, right? There's way too much power required to actually mine this stuff. It's not free to transact. The blockchain size basically removes the security aspect of it. And then last one is it's not government independent anymore because you got the IRS thing on it. So you add all those things up, and what you've effectively got is an internet currency that was on its way for a while to being like the next currency and had potential to be it. It's currently not on its way to be that. And I think what I just explained to you, I think most people don't understand that. And I think that's the reason why the value stays as high as it can. And when all these pumpers and dumpers are sitting out there talking about Bitcoin, they're not telling you what I just told you. So now I know I'm going to get some people are just going to hate my video. Some people who love Bitcoin are going to get below and just flame me. And all I ask is just be educational, not hateful. If there's something I missed, add it, right? You know, correct me on something, put an interesting note below. I don't know, just there's no reason to be hateful on it. But if I miss something, oh yeah, inform me on it. That'd be great. But this is my understanding on it, and so I thought you guys should know it too. So anyways, sorry for that down note. I should say real quick before we go to the actual pack, because this is always, you know, the pack and point opening videos. I'm not anti cryptocurrency. I mined it initially. I bought them and traded them for a while, and I'm out of them at the moment. I'm not anti-crypto. I'm just going to look at it as it actually exists. And I know what it was meant to be, and I know what it currently is. And I know these things are not meeting, right? But who knows? Maybe it's someday some other form of cryptocurrency will come out that doesn't have those 5 problems, that does actually meet the goals. And that'd be great, right? But this one is not that. That's what it seems like. So anyways, let's get to something more fun. Let's get to a pack opening. Okay, here we go, guys. We got an awful lot of booster packs here. And I think for today's pack and point, I'm going to do a couple different packs. I'm going to try to do 2, but I want to randomly grab some packs. I don't want to know what it's going to be. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cover it up with a neat little cloth from my past, and I'm going to shuffle these around for a bit. Don't want to know what's in there. Whoop, sliding around. Shuffle them all around. This is like a big mixed bag. Okay, so now I'm going to come in from the top here. Maybe I'll grab this pack. Oh, Onslaught. We're going to do Onslaught. And maybe we'll come in from this side. And the Dark. Okay, we're going to do Onslaught and the Dark. Now let's move all the rest of you guys out of the way. Let's do this. Let's start with the Dark here. Coral Golem. Look at that. Frankenstein's Monster. Yes. I don't think I own a single one of these. That is fantastic. The Brainwash and the Ghost Ship. You know, I have a friend that used to actually play with this way back when I first started at the tournaments in Chico. He used to use Ghost Ship and regenerate and laugh at me every time he did. Okay, that was cool. Frankenstein's Monster. That was actually really exciting. I did not own a single one of those. And it's actually, you know what? It's October. It's almost Halloween. How perfect could that be that I got a Frankenstein's Monster right before Halloween? I'm going to leave that up there so I can actually enjoy that. Okay, now, Onslaught. Let's see what we get with this one. Fetid Dredging, Daru, Cavalier, Erotic Explosion, Slipstream Eel, Crown of Fury, Information Dealer, SWAT, Pacifism, Run One, here we go, Uncommons here, Headhunter, Wirewood Lodge, and what is that? Tefrederm? I didn't even know this card existed. Oh, look at that. A foil force, though. I like that. That's pretty nice. Okay, that Frankenstein's Monster. That was seriously awesome. I can't believe I got that in October, coming right up on Halloween. So, there we go, guys. Pack and point. Come back next time and see you later.